Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. Welcome to my shop. If you're interested in learning how to cut dovetails, or if you want to get better at cutting dovetails by hand, I've got something you've got to see. I've been teaching this for a long time. In fact, I taught my first class back in 1987, and I've taught several since then. And I've noticed in the last 10 years as my students are getting older, they're having problems with their eyesight, a little bit of arthritis, manual dexterity is not there. And there are some procedures that you have to do precisely. Now, 7 years ago, I developed a saw that purposely has little wee tiny teeth on the first 2 inches with a negative cutting face that essentially removes all the sawing resistance so that you could go in and start your saw accurately. Well, the second most important thing you have to be able to do besides starting your saw accurately is you have to make perfect plumb cuts on the second half of the joint called the pin board. If you don't, the joint doesn't fit. Assuming that your bench is level, you can go in with a square, and I always make sure that that board is standing plumb. Now, if you're using my new method of laying out pins from tails, where you set the tail board on top of the pin board, offset it by the thickness of a saw kerf, and then using my sawtooth blade, you run that sawtooth blade through the existing saw kerf before you've removed the waste, it leaves you a mark on the second piece that is essentially a saw kerf. All you have to do is set your saw in there and make your plumb cut, but there's where the problem comes in for a lot of folks. So here's what I've developed. Been working on this for almost a year. This is called the Dovetail Trainer. Now what you do, actually I've got to take this apart. Once again, as I said, assuming that your bench is level, which means putting this in the vise is going to be holding that plumb, I take this device and I put it on the back of my saw, and it'll fit any saw that has a 1/4 inch brass back. It's made out of a very lightweight nylon so it doesn't interfere with your balance. There's a nylon set screw that holds it in place. It won't leave any mark. Now I want this to be set so that I can get a plumb cut, so I'm going to adjust the bubble until that is right in between the 2 lines, and then I can loosen the set screw in the front on this dial, and I simply set up that there's 3 notches. I set the middle notch. I'm going to get this precise. Set the middle notch to line up with the groove that runs across the top of the barrel. Lock that in place. There. Okay. Now, set that aside for a second. Put my pin board back in the vise. Again, you want to make sure that it's standing plumb. You can use a bubble level or a square like so. Now all you have to do, particularly with this method, whereas your kerf is already started, set your saw in there, hold it so that it's plumb, get it sawing. Now the nice thing about a good saw is once you start it about 1/8 of an inch, it will take over and your cut will go perfectly straight and you end up with a nice plumb cut. Real easy. Set it in the kerf. It's already started. Adjust it so that you're standing plumb. Get it sawing. Now you'll notice that the bubble didn't break up. Well, we had curved vials made in the United States, and they use a mineral oil instead of alcohol, so the bubble is not quite as sensitive because it's curved, and the bubble doesn't break up from the vibration of the sawing. So you get perfect plumb cuts. A little bit of practice, you'll be able to do it without it. And I wouldn't expect to have that on your saw in a year's time. That's there to give you that feel. Now, what about doing your angled cuts? Well, they're not as critical. Remember, when you cut the tailboard, you're creating the template. What's critical is the part that has to fit in there. But if you want to perfect those angled cuts, put your piece in the vise, make sure it's standing plumb once again, square it up to the top of the bench top. Now, there's 3 notches, 1 either side of center. So I would simply push down on the vial until I line up that 3rd notch with the groove across the top. Set my saw in place, get it so that it's approximately where I want it, get the saw going. Now when I'm that deep, I'll just double check where that bubble level is and then go ahead and make my cut. Once again, once you're down into the cut 1/8 of an inch, it will take over and keep it going where you want it. And then to do the other side, you simply move this up until you line up the 3rd notch with the groove. Set that in position. If I have any left, there's one there. Get it so that it's parallel to the line. Your bubble level's where it needs to be. Get the cut started. Check it again. Make whatever adjustment you have to. And then start the cut. And it should be right on your line. Easy. Now, we send it to you with a couple of Allen wrenches, one to take it on and off, the same one adjust your dial in the front, and if for any reason you need to take that vial out, if you take this screw out, there's a smaller nylon set screw in there that holds the vial in place. Works like a charm. If you're interested, you go to my website, RobCosman.com. You'll be able to order one. We'll be happy to send it to you, and I'd love to see pictures of your results. You can reach me at rob@robcosman.com. Good luck.